What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of We Seen It. I'm your host, Nate the Great.
And I'm Johnny Q.
And today we're going to be talking about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Yeah, we seen it. All right. We have seen Venom, Let There Be Carnage that just dropped October 1st. This is the sequel to the original Venom. And we're just going to talk about how the film was, Now, before I really get into things, I will say this. I'm surprised of the amount of varying opinions that people have about this movie. I hear it's one extreme to the next. I hear some people say it's really great. I hear some people say it's really bad. There's really no in between. But I watched it. Q watched it. We have our opinions about it. So Q, let me ask you just your quick thoughts, very quick thoughts. What were your quick thoughts about the movie after you watched it?
So first, the commercials were a lot better than the movie itself. I'll say that. But watching it, it was almost like, which is not canon. It was a failing marriage between two people who like literally thrive off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, yo, it was kind of weird. I mean, it started off weird, and then you had, spoiler alert, then you had what's called Venom venture off by himself, and then Eddie not being able to do anything by himself. It was just a weird aspect, right? I mean, everyone really hyped this movie up. I understand that it literally just got the rating, the number one movie in America. Why? I have no idea. But it just was.
I know why. I know why.
No, okay, yes, I know. Okay, yes. That the end credit. But I'm telling you, the end credit scene took the whole case for the movie. I have nothing against Andy Schwartz, the director of the movie. Nothing against him. He's a great actor. But I mean, in all actuality, the first movie was better than this one. I mean,
okay, so I was actually about to get into that. So my quick thoughts. I'm gonna just say personally, I'm disappointed. Really am. I get a lot of backlash. I got some people who's on my side, but I was disappointed after watching it because I was like, why does this movie exist? But let's talk about it since you brought that up about the first one. Let's segue into that. Some people think that this is actually better than the first one. Whoa. Which is crazy because when the first one dropped, I was like, I love Venom. I loved him in the comics. I loved him in the video games. I even liked him in Spider-Man 3. I'm not even gonna lie. I like Venom. I just like him as a character. But I like the first one so much because they took a different dynamic than what I was used to. They took him as I guess in Spider-Man 3, if I'm comparing it to that one. In Spider-Man 3, they took Venom as this more serious, sinister character who was just all out to murder and to kill. This Venom is much more lighthearted, much more comedic. And I kind of, in the first one, I kind of like that approach because it was like this menacing character is also really funny and lighthearted. And it's like, it was a kind of a weird thing, but it was like, it kind of worked for the first movie. And I was like, I kind of like this. I kind of like it. But then they just overdid it with the second movie. It's like they didn't know when to stop. They hammered you with jokes that, in my opinion, were not funny. And I was like, just stop. Just stop. What do you think about that, man?
Honestly, okay, so if we're talking about like I said, the first movie was good for its own aspect, for an Elseworld story. I mean, for all of you don't know, Elseworld stories are stories that are not canon to the actual comic book, right? Mm-hmm. So generally, all things you see on TV are Elseworld stories because they nick and pick, right? Generally, so that's everything you see. So if we're going straight from canon, from Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire's movie, Eddie, that was the most like Venom because Eddie Brock was a news reporter who didn't really stick to the truth. I mean, in the original comic book, that's what happened. He literally lied about something, and then Spider-Man caught the real person. Now, one interesting aspect it worked. It worked for them in this movie. Venom never really met Spider-Man in this movie, right? So he doesn't really, because like he didn't steal, but he basically mimics most of his power from Spider-Man. So not getting things from Spider-Man, now he's just this really big, brooding black ooze that has to eat everyone's brains.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, the first no, don't get me wrong, the first movie was nice because there was a good amount of jokes, a good amount of seriousness. You had contentions between Eddie and Anne, and that was really good. But as you said, there was so many jokes in this one. It just wasn't good. How the arguing between Eddie and Venom is just like in the comic books, Venom loved Eddie because I mean it was an appreciation. He let Venom do whatever he wanted to do. There was a certain bond there to the point where when someone else wore the symbiote and they found Eddie, he couldn't even kill him. He was like, one day I'm gonna get over this love. But I mean, he had that love for Venom. So for him just to up and leave out of nowhere, just out of will, just from a disagreement, that's not Venom. That's not the Venom that we all knew from 1986. That's not him. So I don't know. It doesn't work for the movie's sake. It's too many jokes, man. Oh.
Yeah, I think, and I'm jumping the gun here because I was gonna ask this later, but I'm gonna just kind of drop it right now. The jokes really killed the vibe for me because I went into the movie theaters, right? And I was like, the first one was good. Like you said, the trailers were amazing. I said, dog, this is about to be fire. And I was like, I went in there and it was a scene really where Eddie and Venom were fighting, like, and they were in the house and they were just, Venom was just, spoiler alert, just throwing Eddie around, tossing around. And they were just, and I was like, what is going on here? And they were cracking jokes while they were doing it. And then there was a whole chicken thing. And I was like, this is not really the MCU, but MCU, whenever they make a superhero movie, they have like jokes here and there, but they have a good balance of comedy and seriousness. This movie just felt like an overwhelming amount of humor that wasn't even that funny. Like, it'd be one thing if the comedy was like knee slapping. Everybody in my theater, like maybe 2 or 3 times, chuckled at best, but nobody was like dead laughing. Nobody was like in tears. It was just like, and but there was so many, and I was like, I can't.
I didn't even get that. Literally, everyone in my theater was like, until the end credit. That is
exactly.
But everyone in my theater was just watching the movie to watch it.
Yep.
And then honestly, even after the movie, was talking to people about it, all they could talk about was the end credit scene because nobody cared about the movie. Because if we're talking about actuality, there is no chance in any universe where Venom beats Carnage so easily like he did. And that end fight scene, I mean, yeah, the CGI was spectacular, but it wasn't accurate.
Let's talk about this for a second. Let's actually get into the character of Carnage and Shriek, which is a new character that was revealed in this movie. So this movie centers around, of course, Carnage. Let there be Carnage. In the comics, Carnage is probably Venom's arch nemesis. I guess that's the best way to put it. Like, Venom has a lot of arch nemesis, Spider-Man probably being the top. But no, him and Spider-Man are kind of cool now, but like, it's whatever. But but Carnage is like, when you think of Venom, you think of Carnage, they go hand in hand. And this movie accurately portrayed Cletus Cassidy as his host. So they did a good job with that. And they brought in Shriek, which was Cletus Cassidy. How do you say his name?
Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah, Cletus Cassidy. His girlfriend. They were separated in an insane house, whatever. They got separated and they got together again. And her ability is to be able to suck in air and then scream really loud, kind of like characters like Banshee or Black Canary. She has the power to scream.
But that's the difference. Shriek will actually take the sound from the area and be able to suck that in. So it's not just air. It's like literally she's taking sound and then amplifying it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I didn't know that. So yeah. Okay. Which is interesting because if you know anything about Venom, he's sensitive to sound, and even in this movie, Carnage is too. So if they hear a loud noise, then that's kind of like their weakness. If Superman's kryptonite, sound and fire is Venom and Carnage's weakness. And Carnage is played by Woody Harrelson. I think he did a pretty good job as his character. I think he played a really good, mentally challenged, crazed, deranged psychopath. He played that. But I think what you said, Q, about Venom beating Carnage so easily. Carnage is a really difficult symbiote, alien to defeat. You're just not just gonna walk up on this and just like, you know, I thought the final fight scene was anticlimactic. I was like, the whole movie built up to this point. I was ready, and I was like, that's it. I was thinking to I said, that's it. I thought the very first movie when it was his fight against Riot, I thought that was excellent. Like the effects,
that was amazing.
That was an excellent fight on that bridge or whatever they were at. That was this fight in the church. I was like, it was kind of boring. The effects were amazing. Carnage.
Don't get me wrong. The CGI fight in and of itself, spectacular.
Yeah.
But the fight itself was like, honestly, let's think about it, right? Every symbiote, because that's the thing. So in this movie, Cletus actually bites Eddie, right? But in the actual comic book, they share jail cell because, like I said, Eddie was an actual bad guy. And in this universe, he's just a reporter, but he was an actual bad guy who took in Venom, and then they eventually separated, and he was in jail. Cletus Cassidy shared a cell with him, and when Venom broke him out, Venom was actually pregnant because symbiotes reproduce asexually. So there was literally a symbiote left, and Cletus took it, and it was because it was inserted within his blood, and that is why Carnage is so much more powerful than him, because every symbiote is meant to be stronger than the last. So technically speaking, Carnage was the most powerful being on the planet at the time, because they're supposed to be stronger than the last, right?
Right.
So it made no sense before with Riot. They clearly said that Riot was stronger than Venom, and that is why, if you remember the movie correctly, Venom did not beat Riot.
No,
it was based on the rocket blowing up. It was based on Eddie's cleverness, based on Anne's cleverness. Because in all actuality, Venom, there was no chance of Venom beating Riot.
Nope.
So it makes no sense how. He comes with a metal pipe and just stabs in the back because they weren't symbiotic. That's not true. If anything, Cletus had a better relationship with Carnage than Eddie had with Venom, because if you go through all of the comic books where you see a Venom or Eddie Brock, they're constantly separating and reconnecting. Cletus didn't do that. I mean, yes, has Cletus wore other symbiotes? Yes, but Cletus did not do that often with Carnage. He mostly wore it.
Right.
So it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, now it would have been better to me if somehow, some way they were using other aspects to beat Carnage, because that's what they did in the first movie.
Agreed.
But because it was just brute strength, they did it themselves. It's not true. It's not accurate.
Yeah. I also think that these characters that were introduced to us were kind of rushed, even Carnage. So, but let's talk about Shriek for a second. Naomi Harris did a great job with the script that she was given. She did that. I still feel, however, that her character Shriek, it seemed kind of rushed. I couldn't really, in my opinion, grasp onto her and who she was. They gave her, even when she was finally free from where she was at and she had her abilities, she couldn't really use her abilities because, well, her boyfriend is his weakness is sound. So it's like every time she tried to, she was told to shut up. She was told to be quiet. So she couldn't even, it's like we couldn't even get the full dynamic of her character, which I understand. Like, I get it. They kind of did that purposely in the movie to kind of see how hard it would be for that relationship to work out. And I get it was planned, but it made me feel like I couldn't really appreciate the character as much because they suppressed her. And it was like, man. And then even with Carnage, his character was good, but only like for the time being. I mean, the movie, I remember the runtime, but for a movie to be called
30, I think.
Yeah, but for a movie to be called Let There Be Carnage, and the fact that we already had a first one, I feel like Carnage should have had a little bit more screen time, whether that be just him out there in the open creating more carnage in the world, or a better fight scene at towards the end, whatever the case may be. I feel like they took too much time with the dynamic between Eddie and Venom. Like in the first one, they kind of explored the dynamic that Eddie did not really want this symbiote, but he accepted it. This one, it's kind of like a marriage couple that's fighting, And then Eddie's like, I didn't ask for this. Venom was like, and I don't need you. I just want to, but I feel like they took too long with this dynamic that we kind of already got in the first one. So they didn't need to explore it that deeply in this one. And it didn't give Carnage and Shriek a time to really shine for a movie to be called Let There Be Carnage. So
no, I ignore that's great, because I remember the scene where he had stole the clothes, and I remember looking at my phone for something, and I saw the time, and I was like, this movie's almost over.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, like, my man basically just broke out of prison for the movie to already almost be over.
Right.
And I was like, yo, I mean, we just, like, he literally just got the symbiote.
Yeah.
So what do we symbiote? It's you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, I was really disappointed by that, because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, we've seen Eddie and Venom, right? I mean, and honestly, when they work together, they're a prominent team. That's literally them working together is what put Cassidy to the death sentence.
Yeah.
Because
Venom
remembered, that's literally what happened. So we've seen how good they work together. So why is there so much contention talking about how much they can't work together, right? And I mean, I understand why the whole eating brains thing, all that stuff, because I mean, that's canon. If a symbiote was not to eat brains, they would literally go insane, losing themselves and their host, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that, but I still feel like, and with the Shriek thing, like almost every scene of her was like only 2-3 minutes long, because when she was first in jail, they showed her what the opening scene was them two together, her getting also thrown away with other people like her or whatever. And then the next scene, she sees that her boyfriend is going to death sentence, and that was only like a minute and 30 seconds long. It's like we really didn't need to explore this character. We didn't even really to explore their relationship to that depth, because we learned more about Eddie. We learned about how him being born is what killed his mom. But like, and I understand we did a flashback of Cletus, but like, who is Shriek herself?
Right, exactly.
How did they meet? I mean, we know how they met because the orphanage, right?
Right.
What kind of mayhem did they cause when they were out of the orphanage? Because canon, Cletus burned down the orphanage.
Yep.
So what kind of carnage did they cause before Carnage?
Right.
You know?
Right.
That would have been a great flashback scene. To have them do more damage even before catching Eddie.
Yep.
That would have also been great, because in the comic books, I don't know, I keep referencing that because like that's our guideline, you know. Carnage wasn't out seeking Venom because he knew he could beat Venom. There was never a point to be like, oh, we have to kill him. No, you're the most powerful being. You don't have to kill him. So he didn't get. He was literally causing carnage, and it caught Spider-Man and Venom's attention. Like, hey, I can't beat him. You can't beat him. He can literally create weapons with his own. I mean, and Venom can do that, but not to that extent.
Right.
So it was just, there was really no point of him really attacking Venom. If anything, Eddie should have stopped him because the carnage he would have released on the city.
Yeah, I really wanted to see more carnage actually happen. I really wanted to see the dynamic of how Carnage and Shriek would work together, even though they had kind of opposing powers. But I still wanted to see them wreak havoc throughout this movie. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see that. We really only saw the action during that final battle, which was subpar, left me really unsatisfied. And I can't forgive it for that. And that's why I have an Instagram page that I posted on here. I have some people saying it was actually a really great movie. And the reviews are saying really good things, and have some other people saying no. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't. So what was the I know we talked a lot about the bad things, but what was the best part about this film?
Okay, so the best part about the film was, I would have to say, I mean, I'm not saying how Carnage was portrayed, but how his powers were portrayed. Because if you remember, the symbiotes literally can have 360 vision, they can shapeshift, they can do all that stuff, and I wish they did show more of his powers, but Carnage of himself, I mean, that is a really great character. All the tendrils coming out.
Yep.
I mean, that was a really great aspect. I keep saying CGI was phenomenal. And it was how much control Carnage had, right? Because Eddie and Venom were like, symbiotic or whatever. They were hand in hand. But Carnage is like, no, sit back, let me take. Well, that's what he was in the comic books. He was very demanding, very controlling. And I really like that aspect because it's like, that's what symbiotes are supposed to do.
Right.
They were originally created by, for all you guys who know the comic book that came out in 2018, they're originally created by Null, to kill sentient beings.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to inhabit the host and like take control and then kill it from within. Right. But being on Earth, now they're starting to preserve their host and just like coming out whenever needed, right? Yep. And I mean, that's a really cool, that's great to do, right? I mean, that's wonderful. But the way Carnage was always spewing out in the comic books, and even in this movie, like Cletus really didn't even, I don't want to say he didn't want to, he didn't really rely on himself. He relied on Carnage. Yeah. And the best scene in the movie to me was when he walked into the convenience store and just knocked the crap out of that guy. Yes. And then Carnage did the thing with the computer, because that is also canon. They said that Carnage is able to go through people's computer screens, phones, all that stuff, connect with the wiring, and just be able to come out through anywhere. That was good. That was so amazing because one, it is directly from the comic books. Two, that's a cool power to have. Like, come on, man. Yeah. That was hands down greatest scene to me. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That and then the tornado. I like the tornado.
That was pretty, last words. Yeah, I gotta say, cool. Yeah. There were definitely some great dynamics about this movie. I think the best part was the CGI and the little things like that, like the tornado spin and him walking into that convenience store. Those were really kind of brought this movie, kind of like glued some of these things together. So I think that would probably be the best part. Again, my worst part would be the comedy. That just it really just watered the entire thing.
It was a never-ending joke, right?
Yeah, even in the final fight scene, Carnage and Venom kind of had like a
they got big trouble. Like, what, dude? Yeah. You're literally fighting for your lives.
Literally,
you know how bad their wedding trouble is, like. And then, like, even some of the serious moments were too comedic. Like, exactly. Let's have this final wedding. Like, no, let's focus on like being in control of the city. Yeah. Right? We'll get married later. I have a question for you though, because like we all saw that scene where the cop got stabbed and then he was infected with a symbiote. So where do you think Venom will? How do you think Venom will continue? What do you think, like, if there is a third movie? What do you think it'll be like? Well, I mean, there is going to be. It's number one in the world.
Yeah. That's a good question because I don't know. When I saw that, I was like, huh. So now he's infected, and I'm not quite sure what symbiote he's going to take on. I'm sure I can. Toxin.
That was that was Carnage's son, which is crazy because, and that's also what I wanted to see too, because I mean there was rumors about Toxin being in the movie, and I wanted to see Carnage panic because in the comic he found out that he was pregnant, and he was like, "Yo, I have to kill this guy immediately when he's born because he will be the most powerful being on the earth, if not the most powerful symbiote, because he's like one of the last symbiotes." And that's the point, is for them to get stronger. He has the powers of Venom and Carnage combined.
I was gonna say, Toxin is, if you thought Carnage was bad or should have been bad, like Toxin is even worse than that. And like you said, it gets worse as the symbiotes have children. It gets worse and worse. But I think I don't know. And it's hard to answer that question based off the post-credit scene. Yeah. And okay, I'm at 7%. And I don't know if I wanted to do this, but I think I will for the time being. Guys, if you haven't watched the movie yet, you may want to skip this part because this is going to be a spoiler. I'm going to spoil the post-credit scene because honestly, I feel like that's kind of what made everybody want to watch the movie and why it's grossing so much money. So, spoiler alert, right now, I'm going to give you time to click off. We talked about all the good dynamics of the movie. That's good, if you haven't watched it. Spoiler alert in 3, 2, 1. Guys, Venom is going to be in the MCU. We saw that whatever happened in the whatever, Venom got transported in this universe of Spider-Man, and he saw Tom Holland Spider-Man on the screen. My movie theater went crazy. They were clapping their hands and they saw this. I don't know really what to expect now because of that post-credit scene, as far as like the Venom universe is going to go, right? Now that the Venom, Eddie Brock's version of this universe is in the MCU, what does this mean going forward? Will Venom still be in the MCU? Will they eventually bring everybody back and have their own? I know that Sony's kind of doing like their Spider-Man universe. They're probably gonna bring them back. But like, what exactly does this mean? Will we get to see Tom Holland wear the black suit? Will we get to see this Spider-Man and this Venom go hand in hand? Like, what does this mean? And so Q, it's kind of hard to answer that question only because the post-credit scene kind of threw me off, because at the end you saw this cop character get infected, but then in the end credit scene you saw he get transported into a whole nother universe. So it's like, does this universe still exist? Like, what's going on? Did everybody get transferred over? What's going on?
Honestly, seeing that end credit scene, I thought about, I was like, are they gonna have Venom abandon Eddie and go for Peter so he can get the spider? Because like that's what he was Venom for.
Yeah.
That humongous white spider in his chest.
Yes.
But he hasn't had that in these past movies. There was no Spider-Man, right?
Yep.
So I don't know, but at the same time, when he saw him, it was like a natural instinct just to be like upset, because like that guy. And I mean, people have their theories on that. They're saying it's because it's a hive mind. So like all the symbiotes are kind of connected-ish. So they should because Venom knows Spider-Man, this Venom knows Spider-Man or whatever.
Interesting.
And I mean, like, that's a cool theory, but like, I don't know. And honestly, I do not think that I don't think Venom's gonna be in Spider-Man. If anything, I think Spider-Man is gonna be in Venom 3. Yeah. That's what I think is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure Tom Holland his contract is only so long. I think he only has one more movie after this. And it's not even gonna be his own movie. It's going to be a cameo where he's in something. So I think he's gonna be in Venom 3. But where does this take us specifically? I don't know, because Marvel and Sony have so much problems, because Marvel has tried to buy Spider-Man so many times. Sony knows that it's a high grossing character. At one point, Spider-Man was the most famous character in the world, because like, he's the most relatable. He's a kid. He's got powers. Doesn't really know what to do. He has to juggle everything, right? Sony's not giving that up. So Marvel really has to be patient with them. So
right.
I don't know where this takes us, but Venom 3 hopefully is better than 2.
I agree, and I think this is a great time to close as my computer dies on me. I don't know exactly where this is going to take us, but I can say this. I think the unknown is what makes it so exciting, because I'm really excited to see where this goes. Guys, let us know your thoughts about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Did you like it? I mean, did you agree with our opinions? Did you think it was really bad? Did you think that the humor was amazing? The action? Was it better than the first one? Whatever the case, let us know down in the comments below. This has been We Seen It. Let us know. All right, we'll see y'all.